Across the known galaxy, one name inspired both fear and surrender: the Zenith Empire. For nearly 4,000 years, its endless armadas crushed every civilization that dared resist. Entire star systems disappeared beneath the Empire's iron rule. Their massive warships blotted out suns, their soldiers never retreated, and their rulers believed one truth above all others: no one could defeat the Empire. One by one, the great civilizations of the galaxy fell. The crystalline kingdoms of Valaris, the machine collectives of Krone, the ancient reptilian clans of Drakkar, even alliances that had stood for thousands of years shattered within weeks. Soon, there was only one civilization left standing: humanity. To the Empire, humans were insignificant, emotional, disorganized. Compared to civilizations millions of years old, Earth had barely entered the galactic stage. When the Imperial Council studied humanity's military records, laughter filled the throne chamber. They still rely on crews instead of hive minds. Their commanders make decisions using instinct. They celebrate individual heroes. Primitive. The Emperor smiled. Send the Third Imperial Armada. Only one fleet. That was all he believed humanity deserved. Meanwhile, far beyond the crowded core worlds, Earth remained strangely quiet. No speeches. No panic. No emergency broadcasts. Citizens continued living as if nothing had happened. Across military headquarters, however, every screen displayed the same message: Code Obsidian. No one spoke those words aloud. Most officers had only heard rumors. Some believed it was a myth. Others claimed it was older than the United Earth government itself. Only the highest-ranking admirals knew the truth. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, thousands of meters below the surface, a vault larger than entire cities slowly awakened. Massive blast doors, untouched for centuries, began to move. Ancient warning lights glowed for the first time in generations. Artificial intelligences that had slept for over 200 years opened their digital eyes. One by one, gigantic reactors ignited. Hidden shipyards came alive. Machines that had never been seen by the modern galaxy began constructing weapons unlike anything currently known. No public announcement explained what was happening. Not even Earth's own citizens knew. Humanity had prepared for this day long before first contact with alien life. Because humanity had learned one lesson from its own violent history: peace never lasted forever. Far away, the Third Imperial Armada entered human territory. More than 20,000 warships stretched across the stars. The invasion was expected to last less than 3 days. Imperial commanders had already prepared victory celebrations. Medals had already been forged. The Emperor had already commissioned monuments honoring another inevitable conquest. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live military broadcast. Everyone believed they were about to witness humanity's final hours. No one realized the Empire wasn't invading humanity. It was walking directly into a trap that had been waiting for centuries. And the real human fleet hadn't even left its docks yet. The Third Imperial Armada crossed the outer boundary of human space without meeting a single warship. No resistance. No ambush. No desperate last stand. Only silence. To Grand Marshal Kaler, silence meant surrender. Standing on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominion Ascendant, he watched countless stars drift across the massive observation screen. Around him, officers smiled with quiet confidence. Our scanners confirm only scattered defense platforms, one officer reported. Human fleets are retreating toward their inner systems. Kaler chuckled. They've already accepted defeat. The bridge erupted in laughter. The Zenith Empire had seen this pattern 1,000 times before. Every civilization fought bravely at first, then fled when faced with overwhelming force. Humanity, they believed, was proving no different. Advance at full speed, Kaler ordered. Capture their colonies intact. The Emperor wants Earth to witness the collapse of its frontier before we arrive. Thousands of Imperial warships accelerated together, their engines glowing like rivers of blue fire. Behind them, victory banners were already being prepared. hundreds of light-years away. Inside Earth's Unified Defense Command, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. No cheering. No speeches. Only absolute focus. Dozens of admirals stood before a gigantic holographic map of human space. Every Imperial movement appeared in real time. "They're following the projected route," Admiral Sofia Reyes said calmly. Another officer nodded. "They haven't detected any of the ghost relays." "Excellent." No one looked relieved. This was only the first step. General Marcus Hale folded his arms. "Begin Phase 1. Immediately, encrypted commands raced across hidden communication networks buried inside abandoned asteroid fields, rogue comets, and deep space listening stations. No radio transmissions. No quantum broadcasts. Only ancient laser relays that emitted almost no detectable energy. Invisible. Silent. Impossible for Imperial sensors to notice. Within minutes, thousands of classified facilities received the same message. The countdown has begun. Meanwhile, the Imperial fleet reached humanity's first line of defense. It lasted less than 20 minutes. Orbital stations exploded one after another. Defense satellites were vaporized before firing a second volley. Entire military outposts surrendered without prolonged resistance. Imperial casualties? Zero. Grand Marshal Kaler smiled proudly. "I expected more." His tactical officer grinned. Humans were greatly overrated. Across the galaxy, billions watched the invasion unfold. Commentators declared humanity finished. Several neutral governments immediately opened negotiations with the Empire, hoping to avoid becoming its next target. Even humanity's oldest allies began evacuating their ambassadors from Earth. Everyone believed the outcome had already been decided. Everyone, except humanity. Deep beneath the frozen crust of Pluto, an enormous chamber trembled. Ice that had remained undisturbed for centuries cracked apart. Hidden beneath kilometers of frozen rock rested something no alien civilization had ever discovered. A shipyard. Not a normal one. A colossal automated fortress stretching hundreds of kilometers beneath the dwarf planet's surface. Its lights flickered on for the first time in over 200 years. Towering construction arms moved into position. Fusion furnaces ignited. Massive docking clamps unlocked. The first silhouette emerged from the darkness. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't elegant. It was enormous. A battleship unlike anything flying in today's galaxy. Its armor was scarred from wars that had ended generations ago. Its hull carried symbols no modern human recognized. One after another, more ships awakened. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Ancient crews weren't needed. The vessels were commanded by strategic AIs that had spent centuries learning every known form of warfare, running billions of combat simulations while they slept. On the bridge of the lead vessel, a calm synthetic voice echoed through the empty command deck. "Final fleet online. Awaiting authorization." Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes looked at the encrypted confirmation appearing across her display. She allowed herself the smallest smile. The Empire thinks they've already won. She pressed a single command. Authorize the final fleet. Across the darkness of space, millions of dormant engines ignited at once. The stars themselves seemed to shake. The Empire still had no idea that the strongest human fleet ever built had finally awakened. ***. For 3 days, the Zenith Empire advanced deeper into human territory. Every report reaching the Imperial capital sounded the same. Another colony captured. Another defense line broken. Another human retreat. The Emperor listened with satisfaction as ministers congratulated one another. Crystal goblets were raised. Victory banners unfurled across the throne hall. Musicians played the ancient anthem of conquest. The Empire had already begun planning Earth's occupation. No one questioned whether humanity could still fight. The only debate was how long it would take before the human government officially surrendered. Aboard the flagship Dominion Ascendant, Grand Marshal Kaler stood before a holographic star map. Report. The first and second battle groups have secured 8 human colonies. The fourth group has destroyed their largest shipyard. The fifth group is approaching the sole defense perimeter. Kaler nodded with approval. They're collapsing faster than expected. An intelligence officer stepped forward. There is one unusual detail, Marshal. Kaler raised an eyebrow. Go on. Our long-range sensors continue detecting faint gravitational disturbances in the outer systems. Enemy reinforcements? We cannot confirm. Every time we investigate, the signals disappear. Kaler dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Phantom readings. Space itself is unstable after large fleet movements. The officer reluctantly saluted. As you command. That single decision would become the greatest mistake of his career. Far beyond Pluto, where no Imperial scout had ventured, darkness suddenly came alive. One by one, colossal structures emerged from the shadows. Then another. Then hundreds more. They weren't stations. They weren't moons. They were warships. Ships so immense that ordinary cruisers looked like shuttles beside them. Each vessel carried centuries-old battle scars across its reinforced hull. Their armor was layered with materials no longer manufactured. Gigantic magnetic cannons stretched for kilometers along their spines. Thousands of missile silos rotated into firing position. Energy lances brighter than stars slowly charged. These weren't experimental prototypes. They were the last survivors of humanity's oldest military age. The final fleet. Inside the command vessel Aegis Prime, blue holograms illuminated an empty bridge. No human crew occupied the command stations. Only artificial intelligences. At the center of the bridge, a luminous figure appeared. Admiral Atlas. The fleet's strategic AI. Created before humanity had even discovered faster-than-light travel. For 200 years, Atlas had slept beneath layers of security protocols. Now, its calm voice echoed through every ship. Fleet synchronization complete. Combat readiness. 100%. Awaiting operational directive. A secure transmission arrived from Earth. Admiral Sophia Reyes appeared as a holographic projection. Atlas. The AI turned toward her. Authorization confirmed. Reyes took a slow breath. The Empire believes we've already lost. Atlas processed the statement for less than a second. Probability of Imperial overconfidence, 99.8%. A faint smile crossed Reyes' face. Good. Let's keep it that way. Across the hidden fleet, millions of systems awakened simultaneously. Shield generators surged to full power. Weapon arrays locked into combat configuration. Drone factories began producing fresh interceptors by the thousands every minute. Repair nanoforges activated. Supply vessels loaded enough ammunition for years of continuous war. The fleet wasn't preparing for a battle. It was preparing to end one. Then came the order every ship had waited centuries to hear. Operation Last Horizon is now active. Every engine ignited. A deep vibration rolled through the vacuum of space as thousands of ancient battleships accelerated together. From a distance, it looked as if an entire constellation had begun moving. Space itself bent under the combined mass of the fleet. Invisible jump gates, built in secret generations earlier, opened one after another. The final fleet entered them in perfect formation. Not toward Earth. Not toward human colonies. But directly behind the invading Imperial Armada. On the bridge of the Dominion Ascendant, warning alarms suddenly erupted. A sensor officer stared at his display, his face draining of color. Marshal, we've detected multiple hyperspace signatures. Kaler frowned. How many? The officer swallowed hard. I can't get an exact count. Estimate. The bridge fell silent. Finally, the officer whispered, at least 50,000 warships. Every officer froze. Kaler stepped toward the display. Then the tactical screen updated. One contact became 100. 100 became 1,000. Then 10,000. The icons kept appearing. They didn't stop. For the first time in 4,000 years, the Zenith Empire realized it was no longer the hunter. It had become the prey. The bridge of the Dominion Ascendant descended into chaos. Warning alarms echoed through every corridor. Red tactical icons flooded the main display. Imperial officers stared in disbelief as tens of thousands of unknown warships emerged from hyperspace behind the armada. The impossible had happened. The hunters had been surrounded. Grand Marshal Kaler slammed both hands onto the command console. Identify those ships. The sensor officer's fingers flew across the controls. I'm trying, Marshal. Seconds later, the answer appeared. No database match. They're not using any known human naval design. Their engine signatures are older than the Empire's oldest records. Silence consumed the bridge. Older than the Empire? That was impossible. No civilization had possessed advanced interstellar warships before the Zenith Empire rose to power. Yet the scanners insisted otherwise. Millions of kilometers away, the final fleet advanced in perfect formation. There were no battle cries. No dramatic speeches. Only discipline. At the front sailed the colossal flagship Aegis Prime, its armored hull stretching nearly 30 kilometers from bow to stern. Ancient battle scars covered its surface like metals earned through forgotten wars. Blue-white energy glowed beneath layered armor plates as gravity drives pushed the giant ship forward without a sound. Behind it came endless ranks of dreadnoughts, carriers, missile barges, electronic warfare vessels, repair ships, and autonomous drone carriers. 50,000 warships. Every one of them awakened after centuries of silence. Every one built for a single purpose: to ensure humanity would never face extinction. Inside Aegis Prime, Admiral Atlas watched the battlefield through thousands of synchronized sensors. The AI analyzed every Imperial ship in less than half a second. Enemy formations, shield frequencies, weapon recharge cycles, command hierarchy, escape vectors, all calculated instantly. A message appeared from Earth. Rules of engagement authorized. Atlas responded with one simple command: disable command vessels first. Thousands of targeting systems locked on simultaneously. On the Imperial flagship, Kaler suddenly heard the tactical officer shout. Energy spike detected. Direction. Every direction. Before another order could be given, the stars exploded. Brilliant blue beams crossed the darkness with terrifying precision. The first volley didn't target ordinary ships. It struck command vessels, flagships, communication relays, sensor platforms. Within seconds, over 200 Imperial command ships vanished in silent flashes of white light. The invasion fleet lost coordination instantly. Orders stopped arriving. Battle groups became isolated. Captains were forced to fight alone. Kayla watched in horror. They ignored our frontline battleships. They're cutting off our command structure. His chief strategist whispered, "They studied us." "No," Kayla replied quietly. "They've been waiting for us." The final fleet pressed forward. Human drone swarms poured into the battlefield by the millions. Small, fast, and nearly impossible to target, they overwhelmed Imperial point defense systems. Behind them came the heavy battleships. Each magnetic cannon fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Entire Imperial cruisers were ripped apart by kinetic impacts before their shields could react. Missile carriers launched waves of intelligent warheads that changed course in flight, hunting the Empire's strongest vessels. The battle was no longer a contest. It was a demonstration. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live transmission. The commentators who had predicted humanity's defeat fell silent. Entire governments stared in disbelief. Even civilizations that had surrendered decades earlier couldn't believe what they were seeing. Humanity hadn't revealed a hidden fleet. It had revealed an entirely different era of military technology. Inside the Imperial Palace, celebration turned into panic. The Emperor stood from his throne for the first time that day. "Report." An officer fell to one knee. "Your Majesty, the Third Armada has lost 40% of its command structure. Retreat routes are blocked. Our fleets are being surrounded." Another transmission arrived. Then another. Then dozens more. Everyone carried the same desperate message. "We need reinforcements. We're overwhelmed. They're everywhere." The Emperor's hands tightened around the arms of his throne. For the first time in thousands of years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Back aboard Aegis Prime, Admiral Atlas watched the collapsing Imperial formations. Victory was within reach, but destruction was never humanity's true objective. Atlas opened a secure channel address to every surviving Imperial commander. Its calm mechanical voice echoed across the battlefield. You celebrated before the war was over. You believed humanity was weak because it desired peace. You mistook restraint for surrender. A brief pause followed. Then came the final message. Leave our space, or witness the complete extinction of the Third Imperial Armada. The Empire had invaded expecting an easy victory. Instead, it was now begging for a way to survive. The battlefield fell strangely quiet. For the first time since the invasion began, neither side fired. Across millions of kilometers of open space, thousands of damaged Imperial warships drifted in silence. Their formations had collapsed. Their communications were in ruins. Wreckage floated like metallic ghosts between the stars. The once invincible Third Imperial Armada was broken. Inside the Dominion Ascendant, Grand Marshal Kaler stared at the tactical display. More than half his fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Defeated. His officers waited for orders, but none came. There was only one option left. Kaler took a deep breath and activated the fleet-wide communication channel. This is Grand Marshal Kaler of the Zenith Empire. We request a ceasefire. The words echoed across every surviving Imperial ship. For generations, no Imperial commander had ever spoken those words. Aboard Aegis Prime, Admiral Atlas received the transmission. The AI processed every possible outcome in an instant. Probability of Imperial counterattack, 2.3%. Probability of surrender, 96.8%. A secure channel opened with Earth. Admiral Sophia Reyes appeared. So, Atlas said calmly, they're asking for mercy. Reyes looked toward the stars. Good. That means they've finally learned. Moments later, every screen aboard every Imperial vessel lit up with the image of Admiral Reyes. She stood in a simple command uniform. No medals. No crown. No symbols of conquest. Only the emblem of humanity. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. You believed victory belonged to the strongest. You measured power by the number of worlds you conquered. You were wrong. She paused. Humanity did not build the final fleet to rule the galaxy. We built it so no one would ever rule us. Across the battlefield, silence answered her. Then Reyes gave an order that stunned both friend and foe. Stand down all weapons. Imperial officers looked at one another in confusion. Human targeting systems disengaged. Drone swarms returned to their carriers. The massive cannons of the final fleet powered down. No finishing strike came. No revenge. No massacre. Grand Marshal Kaler whispered in disbelief. They're letting us leave. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor watched the transmission without speaking. His advisors expected outrage. Instead, the ancient ruler slowly lowered his head. For the first time in 4,000 years, the Zenith Empire accepted defeat. A message was transmitted across every known star system. The invasion of human space is terminated immediately. All Imperial forces are ordered to withdraw. The greatest military campaign in Imperial history had ended in failure. Weeks later, representatives from hundreds of civilizations gathered above Earth's orbit. Many had once feared humanity. Now they came with a different purpose: respect. One ambassador finally asked the question every civilization wanted answered. If this fleet existed all along, why did you wait until now? Admiral Reyes smiled faintly. Because power is most valuable when it never needs to be used. She looked out toward the stars where the final fleet rested silently beyond the moon. For centuries, those ships remained hidden because peace was always our first choice. But if someone threatens humanity, her expression hardened. They will discover why it was our second. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the ancient vaults slowly closed once more. One by one, The colossal warships returned to their hidden docks. Their reactors dimmed. Their weapon systems shut down. The final fleet disappeared into history again. Waiting. Watching. Ready. Not for conquest, but for the day humanity might be forced to defend the galaxy once more. Years later, cadets across every military academy in known space studied the Battle of Seoul. They no longer called it an imperial defeat. They called it the Great Lesson. A reminder that arrogance destroys empires, while patience builds legends. And whenever ambitious rulers spoke of conquering Earth, their advisors always repeated the same warning. Remember the empire. They celebrated victory until humanity unleashed its final fleet.